So good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's Sunday in beautiful Northern California. So my name is Francisco Solorio. I'm a second-year medical student at the University of Michigan. So I was born in Sacramento, California, and I went to high school at C.K. McClatchy High School. I did my undergraduate education at American River College, where I got a paramedic license. And then from there, I did a little bit of firefighting. And then after that, I went to Sacramento City College, transferred to UC Berkeley, and then took 2 years off, and then now I'm at the University of Michigan Medical School. So this talk here today is something that I composed with a dear friend of mine. His name is up there on the board, Daniel Copeland. He's a first year at UCSF. So it's from community college to medical school, step-by-step instructions for success. So overall, these are the 5 things that Daniel and I would like you to keep in mind from your whole route. Is your self-assessment, you got to set your goals, you got to identify your present resources, plan for future resources, and then return to step 1. So let's go down this path. So self-assessment. So point 1 pretty much is saying that even though all of our goal here is to get into medical school, and once you are there, it's going to feel great. However, the studying doesn't stop. So all of those big time hours that you're going to be putting in the library, in coffee shops, wherever it is that you study, they're going to keep going once you're in medical school. So just realize that you are going to be putting a lot of time into it from your undergrad all the way through your professional career. And the second point, whether or not you'll be taking time after you're graduating, right now it may not seem too clear because you're very early in your undergraduate career. However, what Daniel and I have noticed, because we're very fortunate to be in higher tier medical schools, is that a lot of our colleagues have taken time off, and that time that they've taken off, they use it advantageously to make sure that they do have a good MCAT score, and also that they do have more professional development under their belt, which also falls under the good old category of life experience, which I'm sure all of you have heard. And now, so the points under number 3, those are pretty much what I like to call the check boxes. So when you apply to medical school and when you're going down your path, those. Let me see. I have a laser pointer. Okay, is it good? Okay, so the screen's eating it up. Well, these points right here, so these are the check boxes that you want to have checked off as you're applying to medical school. Now, each thing isn't going to happen right away, i.e. the MCAT, right? So you're probably not going to take that until your senior year or even junior year because you want to make sure that you have the appropriate classes under your belt. The research and the volunteer experience, those are things that you can get done a little earlier, even though you only may be taking the general chemistry course, or you may be even lower than that like I was. So when I started off in community college, I started off in geometry and intro-level chemistry, but I still was able to get some volunteer experiences because I used my study skills that I acquired to be able to give back to the community. And of course, letters of rec and life experience. I already touched on the life experience, and on the letters of rec, we have a few slides that are going to get into depth in regards to that. So self-assessment. So when you step into the realm of wanting to be a doctor, what's going to help you from the beginning to the end is deciding what type of doctor you want to be. So this is where your passion is going to come from. This is what's going to keep you late up into the night studying. This is what's going to wake you up in the morning to make sure that you're there, the first person in the classroom in the front. This is what you're going to keep talking about in your personal statements, whether it be for scholarships, whether it be when you apply to medical school, or for those of you that have not transferred yet, when you apply to the university. So point A is, who do you want to serve? So I'm going to use myself as an example. Who I wanted to serve were people just like me from an urban underserved setting. So growing up, I didn't have mentors in academia. I didn't have anyone that could show me how to study, why it was worth spending all that time in the classroom. When I was lucky enough to get into community college and realize that I didn't have those mentors, I felt it was my responsibility to go back to the community and give back. So that became pretty much the type of doctor I wanted to be. I want to work in an urban underserved setting. And so from community college all throughout the university level at UC Berkeley, where I transferred to, I did the best to keep going back to that. And then B was, why serve them through medicine? So that pretty much goes back to like the number 1 of the self-assessment of the prior slide, is like make sure that you want to do this. Because there are other ways to make huge impacts in the communities that we care about. You don't always have to be a doctor. You can be a physician's assistant. You can be a policy maker. You can be many other things. So you have to be able to make sure you know why you want to serve them through medicine. For me, because I am interested in surgery again, I am just a second-year medical student, it was being able to have the tangible technical skills to be able to give back. During my time as a paramedic intern and as a paramedic, I really loved being able to use my hands to be able to help heal people and get people to the medical care that they wanted. So I didn't want to let go of that, which is why I felt that was the best for me in regards to having the technical skills to be a surgeon. And then C, so brainstorm ways that you can begin to help. So for me, I had to go back and think, okay, what were the holes in my education? And the holes in my education was what I alluded to earlier. I didn't have anyone to look up to. I didn't have anyone telling me to study. I didn't have anyone to let me know what it is I need to do to succeed in academia and in the world. So then by thinking about that, I thought, so you know what? Having had that experience, I know what most of those students and children are going through. I need to use that to my advantage. However, I didn't act just yet, and it's because it's going to be in the next slide, is you need to focus on yourself first. No one's going to believe you want to be a doctor. No one's going to believe that you're going to be good at it if you don't have the grades to back it up, because that is pretty much the currency that we use in academia to be able to show that we are ready for the job. And then D, build up your self-motivation and maintain it. Realistically, it's very competitive. Everybody wants to be a doctor. Everybody wants to go to UCSF. Everybody wants to go to Harvard Medical School. So because of that, you're going to meet a lot of people as you go down that path that are going to tell you, oh, no, you can't go. You can't go because you're not a traditional student. And that's why you need to build up your own self-motivation to have that conviction, no matter how much negativity, how many obstacles you face, that you're going to get through that. So, set the goals. So love it or hate it, like I said, the GPA is the currency that we use. We really need that, all right? So GOE, so you need to go get them grades. Grades over everything, no matter what. Because that is what you need to be able to show that you can be taken seriously. And just think about it yourself. When you heard someone got a 3.9 in overall for 2 years, you're like, whoa, dang, they must be pretty smart. You can be that person. However, well, actually, before I get to that, so how? So an example schedule. So I was very fortunate in that I was able to live at home during community college. And those Fridays are dangerous for everyone, right? It's Friday, you're happy. However, Fridays are the point in time where people like us can really take advantage of everyone else relaxing and chilling. So what I did is, as soon as class was over at 12, I took a break till like about 2 p.m. and studied until 10 p.m. Sounds crazy, but that still left enough time. Once 10 p.m. hit, I was still able to hang out with my friends, call it a night like at 1 or at 12, go to sleep, wake up Saturday, start studying at 9 a.m., and study until 9 or 10 p.m. once again. Still left enough time for my social life to be able to go out on Saturday night, but don't go crazy. And then once Sunday came around, I was able to wake up, get there a little later, maybe 11, and study till like 6 p.m. And it was because of those 8 and 12 hours that I put in on Friday and on Saturday that I was able to just let up a little bit on Sunday. So the weekends is a big, big time to catch up on a lot of studying. During the weekdays, if you can, 5 hours, 4 or 5 hours at the least. Some of us have jobs, especially those of us in community college. We have real life to deal with. We don't have the university behind us to be able to give us the payroll to just have to go shopping. That's it. We need to get money to make sure we can go shopping. So that's why I keep it realistic and say at least 4 to 5 hours of studying during the week. Point number 3. All right, so I'm 1 to 2 years into this. It has not been ideal. Francisco, I don't have that 4.0. Francisco, I don't have that 3.2. It's all right. So, and the reason why it's all right is because you still have the university level you transfer to, and you still have the years ahead of you before you transfer. So to zoom out, we need to look at this country as a whole. So the United States of America right now, yes, we are a very powerful country. However, realize where we came from. We started from the bottom. We really did. When the British came and the revolution was happening, we didn't have all of the fine weapons that they had. All we had was heart. And the reason why I bring this up is because it's that same heart that people love in medical school. They love seeing people have that ascending grade point average. So yes, you may be at the 2.5, but when you're done, you should be at that 3.5, that 3.4. And what that does is when you have that ascending GPA, it shows that you were taking school seriously, you were growing, and you did have that development that shows that you are committed to becoming a medical doctor. So just because things don't go right the first semester, the first year, don't let that get you down, because it's going to give you a lot to talk about on your application. Look, I faced these obstacles. I know how to get over obstacles. I know how to refocus myself. And as a medical student, I could tell you that even though when I'm in medical school, yes, I'm finally there, but the obstacles don't stop. Stuff is still hard. It even gets a little harder, even though I was able to prove myself at the community college level and at the university level. However, being able to be steadfast in regards to how much I cared about my study skills, I was able to use that ascending GPA to get me in. And then the last point, how could grades give back? So sooner than transferring or applying to medical school. So like I said, I tutored once I acquired my study skills and I realized that a lot of students did not have the same study skills that I did. I used that to give back. So at Sacramento City College, I was a tutor for the RISE program. And there, the RISE program at Sacramento City College is a program for students that are facing academic dismissal. And so a lot of those students came from the same background as me. They came from an urban underserved environment. So I was able to understand what these struggles that they were going through. And I knew why they didn't have study skills. So I used my study skills to give back to them, right? And also, so the best thing that I can say all you all should be able to do is if you do well in classes, try to become a tutor there on campus at the school you're at. And it's because, one, you don't have to drive anywhere. You don't have to use any gas, right, to get to your next job. And two, it builds up your clout there at the campus. Other professors are going to hear about you. Administrators are going to hear about you. They're going to want to support your cause. So letters of recommendation. So this is always like a real nerve-wracking part, all right? So the good, is that because the community college classes are a little smaller, and unfortunately not everyone in the community college classroom are as serious as we are about our grades, it's a little bit easier for us to get in there with the professors and get face time with the professors to be able to show them that, look, we're serious, we're worth the investment, and to build up that relationship. Now, the bad is that you can and you should only use one letter of rec from community college. However, I use two. Okay, so I had a total of 6 letters of recommendation. One of them was from a chemistry professor, and the other one was from the director of the RISE program. So even though he was not a professor for me, I still asked him for a letter of recommendation because he knew why I was tutoring. He had a good idea of who I was. So now the ugly. So after transferring, you may be in classes with 400, maybe even 500 students, and they all want that face time. You know, they all want to get on the professor's good side. Yeah, that sounds scary. Yeah, that can be intimidating. But you know what? Us as community college students, we have strategy on our side. And so a big strategy is knowing when that lull is. So right after exam, who here goes to office hours right after an exam? Great. Okay, young man here in the front, why do you do that?
Just to make sure I understand everything that they talked about, especially because during class, you don't always have that time to ask the questions, and it's easy to get lost.
And so how many people would you say are there in office hours when you go in the office hours following the exam?
Right after the exam?
Yeah.
Not a whole lot.
It's like no one, right? Yeah, and so the reason why I bring that up, so one, I commend you for doing that, and you probably noticed already, that is prime time for you to have a little bit more of an active dialogue with the professor, to be able to talk a little bit more at length with them. There isn't the pressure of everyone there having questions. And also, it also shows the professor, look, you know, I think this person is really interested. You know, they keep coming back. They really do love this class. And let's say you're just kind of like scared from the get-go to kind of get into a professor's office. Start right away. As a student in their class, you have the perfect intro to get in there and talk to the professor. You could just introduce yourself right away. Hello, Professor Smith. My name is Francisco Solorio. I just transferred here to UC Davis. I'm really excited about your class because I feel that this class fits into the type of doctor I want to be. Or I feel that I heard that your class is very, very exceptional in preparing people for this portion of the MCAT. So that is how you'll be able to begin to build your dialogue with the professor, and just keep popping in. The more they see you, the more you'll be able to talk about, and the happier they're going to be to see you, because it's going to be a familiar face. Realize that these professors, quarter after quarter, semester after semester, they deal with students that come in, and it's obvious to them who just wants the grade, who's just shooting for the letter of rec, and who isn't genuine. as community college students, we are very fortunate in that I believe that a lot of us are inherently genuine people because we know we have to work hard just to be able to transfer, to have the ability to be in the university classroom. A lot of people who come in traditionally to the university have not developed enough yet maturity-wise to realize that it is a privilege to be there in the university. But because we busted our butts so hard just to get there to transfer, we have that genuine respect for them, and professors really do appreciate that. And so now, the lucky, I pretty much described this already, is that you already know how to interact with professors since they are people just like you and I. Are there any questions about this? There's another slide coming up, but because letters of rec are hard, are challenging to get. So, letters of recommendation, once again, so some schools, they do have committees, like pre-health committees. And so what these pre-health committees are, from what I understand, it's mostly like the Ivy Leagues have these committees, and it's a panel of advisors, perhaps even counselors, and they pretty much put a letter out about you, about how prepared you are to go into medical school from their perspective, if you've been touching base with them a lot, if they see from their perspective that you have been doing well in classes. However, if you're here at the UCs, I know UC Berkeley doesn't have one, UC Davis doesn't have one, so this is something that we won't have to worry about. UCLA, I'm sorry, I'm not sure about, or UC Irvine or Merced. So your foundational letter of recommendation package must be 2 math or science letter of recommendations along with 1 non-science letter of recommendation. So like I said earlier, or like how the point that David and I had earlier in the last slide was that, okay, it should only be, at the most 1, maybe even 2 letters of rec from a community college. Try to get, what helped for me is because a lot of us will be taking the general chemistry at community college or that molecular cell biology class at community college. Try to lock one of those down as one of those science letters of recommendation. When you get to university level, we will have 2 or 3 years once we're there, but that still is significant time to be able to lock up that other science class, especially for those of us that are doing the medical school process traditionally by going into a major that is a biological science. Yes.
Does it have to be a letter, like for the non-science portion, does it have to be from your professor, or can you get it from like a mentor or like a physician you're working with?
Mm-hmm. So you can, definitely do that. Definitely get someone from a mentor and someone that you worked with. However, the one non-science that I'm talking about, that has to be from a professor. So what I should have put on this slide, thank you so much for bringing that up, is that we need at least your foundational letter of recommendation package needs to be at least 3 letters in total from a professor, 2 being from non-sciences and 2 being from science or math, and 1 being from a non-science. So my non-science was an English professor I had at UC Berkeley. Is that cleared up? Okay, great. And then, the last point, identify professors that you click with and that you honestly enjoy. And so you're going to be able to figure that out through going to office hours and like sitting in the front of the class and just building that dialogue with the professor, whether or not you click with them. However, you don't have to be in love. All right, just because you don't love your professor, just because you feel like your professor isn't really like you, doesn't mean that you shouldn't ask them for a letter of recommendation. There also is that professional relationship that you will have with some professors. They will like you, you will like them, and that's what you need. As long as they know why you want to be a doctor, why that in class was important to them, and also I take that back, it's only those 2, why you want to be a doctor and why that class is important to you being the doctor. Oh, that was the other point. And how they have helped your development as a medical school applicant. That's really important. And the reason why that's important is because you want to help them feel like they're invested in your development. They just don't want to hand letters. They just don't want to hand letters of rec out to people for no reason. They want to know that they're making that investment of writing all those wonderful things about you and that you're well worth it. So present resources, right? So the present resources, if you remember the boxes that I had at the very beginning, that David and I had at the very beginning of the presentation, like the volunteering, clinical experience. So this is where these present resources are going to come in. So one, your pre-health office. However, be careful with the pre-health office. Even though the pre-health office is there to help you, to use an urban colloquialism, haters are abound in the pre-health office. There are going to be people that don't want you to succeed just because you don't fit into that cookie-cutter mold of what they think a pre-med student should be. The cookie-cutter mold does not exist anymore. And it is because what David and I have noticed that a majority of the students coming into the top-ranked medical schools aren't even science majors most of the time. Yes, they did do the pre-med things. However, some of them are doing public policy. Others are like our language majors. A good friend of mine, she did Russian and the pre-med things at the same time and got into excellent schools. So those people in the pre-health office that say, oh, you don't have that 3.9, oh, you're not doing basic science, oh, you're not working at a clinic, you can't be a doctor, don't worry about them. They obviously aren't at the cutting edge with what medical students are nowadays. However, it is advantageous to still, I'm not saying that the pre-health office is going to be filled with nothing but those people, but don't be surprised if you do run into those people. You can still use the pre-health office to identify those basic science or clinical research opportunities. You still can use the pre-health office to identify mentors to help you through medical school. You still can use the pre-health office to find out about health fairs or conferences just like this one. Also, point two, so find your local AMSA or similar institutionalized clubs. So like chess, so at UC Berkeley, that's Chicanos and Latinos for Health Education. And then there's a SNMA, that is the Student National Minority Association. And then there's BMA, the Black Medical Association. And there's LMSA, the Latino Medical Student Association. And there's conferences. So it's, yes, these are clubs. And the reason why it's important to get these conferences and to become a part of these organizations is because you will find like-minded people. You will find people who are like one step ahead of you who will be able to tell you, you know what, don't take that professor, don't study there, study here instead, take this professor instead. And that will save you a lot of emotional strife, and it also will help you be, also have you have a higher yield pre-med experience. And also, so number three, plan ahead for the MCAT. So the MCAT is one big old test, right? There are a lot of topics on that test, especially now. I know this is terrible about how they're changing the test, right? So what you need to know is make sure that you have all those courses under your belt. And a big example is physiology. If you look at the MCAT site at the, is it AAMC, I believe it is, at the AAMC site for the MCAT, it says physiology is optional. It is not optional, all right? So like a lot, and I say it like that is because a lot of the biology STEM questions are physiology intense. So even though, yes, it will be testing a general chemistry topic, it's the way that they present it to you is going to be physiologically based, whether it be hormones or a chemical reaction that happens in the body. So it's good to have that under your belt so that you see where the question stem is going. So make sure that you do see what is going to be tested for on the MCAT. And so another example with the new one that's coming out in 2015 is cultural anthropology and psychology courses. Have those under your belt so that when you go in to take the MCAT, you'll be ready for it and you don't have that doubt in your head, oh, I hope one of these questions don't come up, right? So nearby universities with research available. So for those of us at community college, it is hard initially to get into a lab, and it's because our institutions, many of them aren't involved in that much research. However, there are gems at our institutions. So for those of you who has a chemistry stock room at their community college, so everyone should. And so, and the reason why everyone has a chemistry stockroom is because when you do those titrations in general chemistry, and you do those extractions in organic chemistry, it's the stockroom getting those solutions ready. It's the stockroom making sure that the molarity is right. Those are skills that I continue to use. I did not work in the stockroom, but those are skills that I used when I did get into a basic science lab. That is your chance to build up those lab skills so when you get into university, you'll be able to say, you know what, I do know how to make buffers. You know, I can handle corrosive and toxic solutions. So that is one way that you can begin to build your skills is in the chemistry stock rooms. Also, so your summers, try to dedicate your summers not to classwork. Yes, we all have certain timelines we want to hit in regards to, okay, we want to get out in 2 years. I say don't worry about that. And it's because you need to use the summers to build yourself up professionally. Summers are way, way more fruitful for professional development. And it's because if you take summer school classes, okay, that's an experience you're going to have in the fall and the spring and the summer. However, it's going to be harder for you to give 110% to those internships that you're part of, whether it be research, whether it be a clinical internship, if you're in school at the same time. That's why the summers are key. You won't have any classes on your plate, and you can give as much as you want and get as much as you want out of those experiences. So focus the summers to professional development. And so some examples for you all that I used, because my basic science background was fairly weak coming from community college. Here at UC Davis, we have a very strong program called the Center for Biophotonics, Science and Technology, the CBST program. So now they go the extra mile to make sure that community college students make it into the university and biomedical sciences by having a winter program for us. So if you can, look that up, CBST at UC Davis. And also you can just do a general Google search, right? What internship opportunities are there out there right now? And so I suggest that you do that right now because most of the deadlines are in March, are in April for those summer internships, and you want to be able to talk to your letters writers now and have all of the other things set up for you. And volunteer opportunities. So the sentence I have right after volunteer opportunities is that they don't have to be institutionalized. So by institutionalized, I mean you don't have to be part of the Boys and Girls Club. You don't have to be part of the YMCA. You don't have to go to, you don't have to do food, not bombs, because those are already set up. There may be things that you identified that need help, but no one has gone for yet. For me, that was a community in downtown Sacramento, and it was a community of, it's near housing projects. At this community center, they had a huge group of Latino and African American youth going to the community center, but they had no academic component. And so when I found out about this community center, I went and I hung out with them, and I saw myself in a lot of those children, and I knew exactly what was going on. You know, they were getting out of school, they were playing, they were having fun with each other. However, it was unfortunate that they did not have that structure to study. There was no one telling them there, look, you need to do your homework first, then you can play basketball, you can play all you want to. So that was something I identified in the community on my own, and I made my own volunteer opportunity. So if it is great if you do that, but don't feel the pressure to make something novel and new just like that. And that's when the other institutionalized volunteer opportunities that I brought up will be advantageous for you. And then lastly, strive for leadership roles. So the reason why it's important to be in a leadership role is because once you get to medical school, and of course when you become a doctor, you need to be brave to call the shots. Things aren't always going to be ideal. You know, things aren't going to go the way you want them, but you need to show that you have the capacity to be able to rally people behind you and to get people to trust you to lead them. And that is the same thing that's going to happen when you have a patient that's particularly yours, whether you're a third-year medical student at the University of Michigan or any other medical school, or when you're finally a doctor. Let's see, and then so number 6. So having a pre-med friend with a similar plan and timeline and to work together. So those friends, you can identify them in those clubs. And point number 2, you can find them at conferences. I'm pretty sure some of you probably found someone here. They're like, hey, you know, this is a cool person. We're like, he or she is a year ahead of me, or we're like the same year. I'm going to keep in touch with them. They are a valuable resource because you and that other person or those other 3 people will be able to bounce ideas off of each other. And because all of you are in different places at the same time, you all are going to get data about their pre-med experience from very different resources and be able to compare and be like, you know what, I heard this, that doesn't work, don't do it. I heard this works, do that, do this internship. You know, I met this medical student named Francisco. He said, do the CBST internship, and that was well worth it. I'm going to do that one. So that's why it's important to network within your fellow pre-meds. And on that note, don't always go for the person in the class that you think is doing really well. If you can and they're a good person, do it, but they may bring you down. You know, they may be so competitive to the point where they don't want you, where they don't want to share their resources with you, and they don't want you to be at their level. So choose your friends wisely. Make sure it's someone who is going to understand when you say, you know what, no, I can't go to that party. No, I can't meet you for coffee, and it's because I need to study. You want someone that's going to be like, yeah, okay, get it. Get those A's. You don't, and what you don't want is someone that's going to be like, oh, come on, just this once. That's someone that is not invested in your success, and those people are out there. And so a mentor and advisor, so they really help, and it's because they've been through it. All right, so even though everyone, it'd be great for there to be a medical doctor for every pre-med. However, realize that a lot of our professors, they have friends that are medical doctors. You know, they have family members that are medical doctors. So even though your English professor or your anthropology professor or your general chemistry professor is not a medical doctor, that doesn't mean that they don't have access to the resources to help you. So those are mentors that you want by your side because they are going to help guide you down a route that's going to be the best for you to become that medical doctor. So when I say threes, I really love basketball, and so with the mentor advisory role, you want to run threes. So that means play 3-on-3. So the three on your team is going to be you, a medical student, and a professor, or if not a professor, / even a medical school faculty member. That's going to be your three. So try to at least get those two on that team of three with you. So step 4, planning for future resources. Where will you be transferring? So for those of you not from California watching the video, I'm very sorry, but still look for a resource just like assist.org. So what assist.org is it is a website that caters to the community college system in California and pretty much lines out all the classes you need to transfer for a particular major to get to your California State University or University of California university of choice. So has everyone here heard of assist.org? Yeah, it is lovely. It is what I followed. It is what I followed. And the reason why I followed it is because of point B. I will get back to point A. So in his point B, so sadly, before I identified a really strong counselor that was there for me, I went to the general counseling office, and so what happened to me is that I hadn't even taken geometry yet, but they told me to go into trigonometry. And so by not taking geometry, I didn't have algebra 2 under my belt. I had no idea what was going on the first day of trigonometry. And so I had a counselor that did not have a good idea of what it is I needed to transfer. And so what I ended up doing was using assist.org and relying on that more. And so going back to point A, make sure your classes serve multiple purposes. By those multiple purposes is A, it shows that you're passionate about something. Right? So let's say you do molecular cell biology, and it's because you love understanding the way life works at the molecular level. 2, those classes also are going to handle a majority of the MCAT requirements. And 3, you need to make sure it shows that you can challenge yourself. I'm not saying take Calc 3 before you're even done with pre-calculus. What I'm saying is try to take the more serious classes, upper division classes, if you can, once you're at the university level, or even graduate student classes that are within your major. And it's because it shows that you want to learn more and that you have an innate and natural desire to learn. Yes?
As far as transferring, there's an IGETC as well. Like, would you prefer? Do you think transfer schools prefer that or the assist following the courses you need for the major?
Mm-hmm. So I say definitely do that at GetSeam because it makes you more broad. You know, it makes you marketable. Let's say you want to go, you're hoping to go to UCLA, but you wouldn't mind if you went to Irvine or Davis or Berkeley. Following the IGETC is going to make you marketable to all those schools. The IGETC is usually a bigger course load, but it's all right. And it also, what the IGETC is going to do is once you get it out of the way and you have that under your belt, you really will have all the classes possible done with when you transfer to the university. So everyone's timeline is going to be different. I say match them both up. Take that IGETC, okay, what classes do I need for that IGETC? And then according to the molecular and cell biology major that I want to transfer to at Cal, how do those classes add up? Are there going to be extra classes I'm going to need to add in so that I have them both covered? So college advisors, pre-health advisors. Longevity is key. So this, that pretty much falls into the running those threes, right? The medical student, the faculty/professor on your side, and yourself. So those are pretty much going to be the people that can advise you. However, they're not all of them are going to be able to talk about the classes that you need to take, which is why it's important to at least have that counselor that you know you can trust. It may take some shopping. However, once you have that counselor locked down and it's obvious that they know what they're talking about and that they do have an investment in you, stick with them, because you're going to have that dialogue with them where they will be able to keep up with you. They're going to ask you, oh, so how did that physical chemistry class go? Did it go well? And then you say, yeah, it did go well. And then they'll be able to hopefully take it to the next step and say, okay, since you're done with that PChem class, now it's time for this class. And so mentors, we talked about that. And then eyeing up the universities. So it's very, very important for you to make sure that you go to a university that's going to cater to what you like. And the reason why that's important is because when you're there at the university, you're kind of going to be stuck, right? And you want to make sure they have everything you want to be the doctor you want to be. So if we rewind all the way to, I think it was like the third, maybe second slide, when I asked you all to identify who it was you wanted to help by being a doctor, that is where picking that university is going to be important to you. So let's say you have a very deep burning to be able to learn more and help people in the rural community. UC Davis may be that place for you, and it's because of the Knights Landing Clinic they have for rural medicine. However, you're like, you know what, Francisco, I'm really interested in translational medicine. I really want to get that science going. UC Berkeley or UCLA could be for you, as is UC Davis, right? But however, the reason why I throw out UC Berkeley is because they do not have clinics like how you all do here at UC Davis. So that's why you need to pick and choose, okay, why do I want to go to those institutions? So I myself, the reason why I picked UC Berkeley instead of UC Davis is because they had a very strong molecular and cell biology program. And I still am very interested in things at the molecular level. And I felt it would be very advantageous for me to go to a school that has people very strong in that area. And so I took advantage of that by once I got to UC Berkeley, I made sure to get into a lab that was a biophysics lab. And then the last point is make sure, are there students from your community college already there? I'm sorry that's kind of like blocking it out. But the reason why it's important to make sure that you know students from your community college that are already there is because they will have been through the things that you may go through. So you want to be able to identify someone that you can ask right away. Oh, okay, I have these classes here lined up. Should I take these classes? And like I said earlier, they're probably going to say, you know what, no, don't take that class. That class is a total pitfall. You know, that class is always taught terribly by that person. Take this class instead, or switch things up this way, or don't join this club. This club, yes, they have the title of they have the title of wanting to help people in the community, but all they really do is kick it anyways. You know, they're never really out there in the community. They're just partying. So that's why it's important to have people to know that you do have people from your community college at those universities. So plan for resources, right? So plan for future resources. So get involved in research early on, possibly freshman year. Don't stress too hard, you know, if it's your freshman year. And it's because it's hard. You know, we still need to get those grades. We need to have grades over everything. So you want to use your freshman year more to maybe scout out the research possibilities, but focus more on your grades. And then this point, but why? Why do I need research? The reason why we need research is because when you apply to medical schools, all medical institutions want to help progress medicine. And the way that we do that is empirically through research. So you need to be able to show that you can give back to medicine with research. I'm not saying that you need to have publication or that you need to have a lot of years under your belt, but you need to at least try it. And the reason why you need to at least try it is because when you get into the interview, and let's say Harvard Medical School interviews you, which is a research-intensive institution, they say, you know what, Maria, we see here that you didn't do any research except for this summer and this year. Why is that? And Maria will be able to say, you know what, I just didn't like it. My passion wasn't there. Yes, I only did a year of it, but as you can see, once I stopped that year, I went back to the clinic and put in more hours there because that is what I loved. So you want to be able to do things and know that you can say no and you have a reason why you didn't want to do it. So that's why research is important, is because it is pretty much the impetus behind the development of new treatments and new drugs. And so you need to show that you are familiar with it. So point A, point A, I pretty much talked about how about the gems, like the chemical stock room that we have about internships you can do during the summer, even though our institutions don't do much research. Point B, I talked about as well. So really, really, really try to use your summers for professional development and not on school. And so 2, let's say you do research and you fall in love. You love doing chart reviews. You love setting up those correlation graphs. You love giving presentations. Stick with that for 2 to 3 years. Okay, so what I did is the internships that I had, I used those to be able to build my skills. And then when I got to UC Berkeley, I was able to use those skills to market myself. Look, I am familiar with these methods. Look, I have this letter of rec from this primary investigator that says I am worth that time in the lab and that I'm not just in there playing around looking for a resume builder. And so possibly, the last point there is A, is you want one from a community college area. So for me, that was like the CBST program as well as the C program, SEE program at Sac State. And one from a 4-year. So 2 to 3 years, if you love it, will be best. And it's because your mentor, which could be a graduate student or a postdoctoral candidate, is going to be there to be able to vouch for you. And also as well as a primary investigator, depending on how involved they are going to be able to vouch for you and say, you know what, this person does do good work. This person is familiar with the scientific process. This person can be counted on with this very important data. And also that's going to turn into that letter of rec for you. And the reason why it's important to have a letter of rec from someone in research is because it shows that you are familiar with academia in regards to research. It shows that you can talk about those things with professors and with people in that area and in that profession. So step 5, every semester and every quarter, you need to stop and reassess. Because there are going to be moments, just to share something very personal. I had a meltdown moment because of all very nerdy things. A brother got a C on a quiz, all right? And I started stressing out big time. I went to the library and I literally broke out in hives. I got really itchy and I stressed out because I thought my world was crumbling around me. And so I think what really could have helped me stay away from that is if I would have been able to zoom out and say, no, okay, this is just one grade and I have plenty of tests and plenty of other quizzes beforehand, which is why you want to reassess every semester and every quarter so you know where you are. Are you meeting your goals? If you get a B, it's not the end of the world. Like I said, medical schools love that ascending trend. They love to see you get better and better and better. Make sure that's an A next semester, next quarter. How are you handling the schedule? Okay, if you have like a lot of things on your plate, if you have okay, I'm a president here, I'm a co-chair here, and I do research, and you see that your grades are like in the B plus range, you need to drop something because that means you're not handling your schedule. You always want more A's than B's. And then so your readjustments to the medical school application timeline. So what that means is, let's say it's your last year of school, and you're not ready to apply. You didn't really take the MCAT yet. It's all right. You're just going to have to extend everything for a year and push it forward. And which is why it's important for at least every quarter and semester to look back to be ready to make those readjustments so that you're not done with school and you're like, oh shoot, I didn't do this. I didn't have I didn't by this I mean I didn't have a great relationship with the professor and I should have set that up. By looking back every quarter and semester, you're going to make sure that your grades are where you want it to be, that you are striving for those leadership roles, and that you do have the research under your belt, you do have the volunteering under your belt, and that you do have a strong relationship with the professor. So extras. Some schools, i.e. Wake Forest Medical School, what I have, like 2 minutes now? Okay, so some schools, they don't like community college. Don't worry about them. There are plenty of schools that nowadays know the value of us community college students. So time. You really need to be really selfish with your time. Focus on your grades. Grades over everything. And then point C, make sure that you are taking courses that are going to prepare you for the MCAT. And point D, which is the biggest, if you sincerely want it, you will will yourself towards it. Those friends that aren't helping you with your grades, that aren't helping you do best, they're just going to filter themselves out. And it's because you're going to be doing what you need to do well in school. Volunteer, preferably longitudinally. Apply early when you apply to medical school, it being in the 20s of July. And most of all, never forget where you came from. I try my best never to forget where I came from, which is why I'm here giving back, and I do my best to keep in touch with my community college there at Sacramento City. And then the last thing I'd like to say is continuously gather data about your goals from as many resources as possible. I'm one person. Dave is one person. Everyone has very different experiences, which is why it's good to have those friends who are also getting all of those data points about those research opportunities, about doing good in school, about those volunteer opportunities. So as all of you all bring those things together, you'll be able to form your own path. It's important to take a huge sample size of what it is you need to get into medical school and not just trust one person, because that one thing isn't going to work for everyone. So we ran out of time video-wise, but do we have time to be able to open the floor up to questions? What was that, Marie? Okay. And so for the questions, are the questions going to be recorded as well? Okay, great. So first of all, I went pretty fast. How about I went pretty fast through these last ones. Do you want me to go back and leave it up there for a little bit as we take questions? All right, and yes.
I just have a question. Is there any way that we could get a copy of your PowerPoint?
Yes, so there is. I'm just figuring out, okay, this is the best way to do it. The first person is Daniel. You will be meeting him soon, or your friends will be meeting him soon when they come into this workshop. So this email right here, kikosolorio@gmail.com. Email me there, and I will send you a link to this because this is a Google presentation. I don't care when it is, how it is, contact me. Everyone's schedules are different. Everyone is in different places in their lives. And that's why I say contact me whenever. It doesn't matter. By being here at this conference, it shows me that you are serious, or at the very least, seriously curious about becoming a doctor. And so with that, I will share this with you, and I will answer any other questions that you have. Yeah.
So, why did you choose to transition from an EMT to becoming a physician?
Yeah. There actually was a life experience. So there was this child who had so it's called status epilepticus, right? So it's when someone has a seizure for super long. I think it's longer than 5 minutes. And so all I could do at that point in time was drive really fast to the hospital. However, even though that's all I could do, I really felt that there was more energy within me that I could not manifest into some sort of medical treatment. For some reason, this kid, even though we didn't talk and he was unconscious the whole time, he just hit me in my heart. And I thought, you know what? I don't want this to happen ever again. I don't want to ever feel like I don't have the skills to help someone. And so it was that moment where I felt, you know what? The best thing I can do to make sure that moment doesn't happen again is to go back to medical school. Yeah. Yes.
Do you recommend taking anatomy and microbiology before transferring?
So as long as it doesn't interfere with your major coursework, because you want your major coursework to be high, and also as long as it doesn't interfere with your science GPA. So one thing I didn't cover in the PowerPoint is that when you apply to medical school, there's your overall GPA, and then there's your science and math GPA. So if you take that anatomy and that microbiome course, even though theoretically it will help you when you get into medical school, you want to make sure that you can knock A's out in that class, because when the medical school admissions committee look at those classes, they're gonna count it as a science class, and even though it's not part of your major, it still has the potential to raise or lower your GPA. So I say do it if you can, and it doesn't jeopardize your major, those volunteering opportunities, those research opportunities. Mm-hmm. Yes.
How did you handle the courses at Berkeley after transferring from community college?
I wiped my plate clean. So by that I mean even though there were a lot of social opportunities and a lot of clubs to become part of, I made a commitment to myself for that first semester just to shop around. I was just shopping. And so meaning that I went to club meetings, but I didn't take a role. Even though I really wanted to, I wanted to get involved, I just made sure to step back so that I could ensure that I had as much time as possible to focus on my grades. So I made sure that my first semester, my 2 goals were get great grades and look for a lab to be a part of. And so that also had to do with looking for opportunities within the institution to have like a summer internship. Does that?
I was kind of more like asking about like the rigor of the course.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Okay. So those days of when we're able to rely on the book at community college, they're pretty much gone now. And so it's because a lot of professors, they go straight from their lectures. Okay, so one, focus on the lectures and use the book as a supplement. So like if there's something you don't understand in the lecture and then you go to office hours, because then that should be your number 2. You go to your GSI's office hours and they're like, what? And so GSI is another name for TA, for those of you that aren't at Berkeley. What was that? Yeah, okay. So, sorry. After going to those office hours, if that still doesn't make sense, then use the book paired with the book notes and the office hours notes. Thanks so much for being here. I will be in the hallway if you have any more questions.